Welcome, Scorpio, your in-depth weekly astrology overview and zodiac forecast for week commencing the 8th of June for the ascendant, the sun or the moon. Going to share with you, first of all, Scorpio, the big trends of the week. On screen is your event chart on Monday. I'll unpack that. It's always important. I'll then go through each of the influences in detail. By the end of the video, you have a clear picture of what's upcoming in terms of your energy, work, relationships, or finances. I'm astrologer Patrick Arundel. A very warm welcome. If you've yet to subscribe to my channel, please do so now to help it to continue to thrive. But please also click or tap the bell notification symbol. So as ever, as we go into a week, we need to think of the luminaries, the sun and the moon. And they're actually coming into a square later on Monday, which will require some care. It can be a bit complex, but there's another influence on Monday involving the moon and your traditional ruler of Mars, which could be really brilliant. Now, on Tuesday, we have Venus and Jupiter, the two planets of fortune, coming together in your fellow water sign of Cancer, and that really can be absolutely lovely. It's very, very rare, but it could be very fortunate. Thursday, Mercury in that part of your chart, Cancer, which is to do with exploration, that does get challenged by the strict Saturn. If you're trying to sort of break out of chores and obligations, there could be a little bit of a reality check there. On Friday, Uranus, very much to do with change and independence, is in a very deep part of your chart. If you're not really feeling it in an existing relationship of any kind, you may just want to be a bit more freedom loving, but that could be disruptive. But by the end of the week, Scorpio, Venus, the relator, but also the planet of money, moves into the most visible part of your chart. Fabulous for your professional prospects over the following 4 weeks. And if you are in a tie which is heading forwards in a very positive way, a chance to make that relationship that much more solid. On the screen is your event chart. So on Monday, there's the North Node and the Moon in that fifth house, which can be very warm and affectionate. And the moon moves later on Monday into a wonderful sextile to Mars. If you're getting on well with someone, that really is lovely. It's going to amplify that in a very positive way. However, later on Monday, the moon does square off to the position of the sun. The complexity there is the sun in the chatty Gemini is very logical, but the eighth house is much more psychological, whereas the fifth house is really where we want to be warm and things just flow. So there could be a little niggle that comes up around a relationship, and it doesn't have to be a romantic one, where someone may be being a bit heavy about something, finding angles that aren't really there. It is possible. However, what can help to lighten the vibe hugely for us all this week, but particularly for you, is Venus and Jupiter coming together in that conjunction in Cancer. Cancer energy is very nurturing. Jupiter's exalted in the sign. Venus is very comfortable in Cancer. The ninth house can be where you might have a big chat with someone. You could end up talking about philosophy, but you may also book a trip, a holiday, a vacation. If you're actually traveling, I think the whole experience can seem that much more vivid. If you enjoy bands or concerts or art exhibitions, all of those things can be that much more vivid with this combination. But of course, these are the two planets of fortune, and Venus can be about romance. So if there is someone you experience this week that's really fresh and different, but also sincere and nurturing that Cancer energy, it is a person that is going to have quite the impact on you. Now, Mercury's in that ninth house as well. So if you are actually doing travel plans, setting things up, just be aware there could be a niggle on Thursday because Mercury comes into a clash with Saturn. The details will be really important. Don't take a shortcut. But you may also find that something that you're wanting to get a bit of escapism from could call out to you, and it may be to do with your work or someone's expectation that you need to be responsible when you're wanting to be a bit more freedom loving. Friday, I mentioned about Uranus. So Uranus in Gemini is an excellent influence because Gemini is very much about communication, and Uranus is actually a planet which you understand well. It's exalted in your sign, but in the eighth house, it could give you some brainwaves about new ways of earning money. But it is in a T square with the North Node and the South Node, so it's known as nodal bending. So if there is something uncertain about a particular involvement or friendship at the moment, and you are feeling that you're being kind of held in somehow. You can't quite be as free as you would like. You may show some signs of rebelliousness. However, on Saturday, Venus moves into that 10th house. Venus has lots of different ways of expressing its energy. First of all, if you do work in a more sort of worldly role, you may want to, in some ways, refresh your wardrobe because the more you come across in a very sort of stylized way, the better the impression you're going to make. But Venus here can also see you encounter some influential people over the next few weeks. So if you're doing presentations, having interviews, pitching in some way, your ability to cultivate those important people is definitely going to be enhanced. But if you are enjoying a romantic relationship, but it's fairly newish. You don't live together, for example. Venus moving into the 10th house could see a discussion about getting spliced or even getting your own home together. So it's a really lovely influence because Leo for you is very visible, and Venus in Leo is very glamorous and very charismatic. So, right at the end of this week, if you do talk to someone about a job, for example, it could happen very, very quickly. An opportunity could see a door spring open. I'm going to summarize those four areas of energy, work, relationships, and finances next. But just to say, I've slashed the price of my personal horoscope report. It's now free for the price of one. The one you pay for, your life roadmap report, helps us to understand the patterns that are playing out in our lives, get a more intimate understanding of how to work with those energies future forwards. Free, your 12 months transit forecast, but also your draconic soul karmic analysis. Please see below for more. That's three for the price of one. If you've yet to watch your June monthly forecast on the screen, your Chiron into Taurus 50-year return forecast for 3 months on the screen. If you'd like to work with me one-to-one, it'd be an absolute pleasure. Please see my testimonials below. And if you've yet to sign up for your free daily written horoscope, fire to your device each morning for your early day celestial pit stop, you can do so below. So to summarize energy, that sixth house position of Saturn continues to ask you to be very conscientious, but that angle to Mercury on Thursday could just see a little bit of stress creep in. Just be conscious of that. And if there are politics around a relationship, I think that can have an impact on your vitality as well. As far as your professional situation is concerned, Venus moving into that 10th house at the end of the week is particularly exciting. However, because the two planets of fortune are coalescing on Tuesday, if you are having a conversation or a meeting, particularly around a contract, it could go better than you think. As far as your long-term finances are concerned, I guess you could say that the Sun and Uranus clashing with the Moon and also the nodal axis is asking you to be a bit cannier about how you use resources. But when it comes to relationships, the link between the Moon and Mars on Monday is excellent. However, if you're not enjoying a relationship, the square between the Sun and the moon, the quarter moon, and also the Uranus bending on the nodal axis suggests that you may want to at least have a little bit of personal space to consider your options. It's been a real pleasure being with you, Scorpio. Have a great week. All the best and see you again soon.